the 60s, there was a movement under the larger umbrella of the American Indian movement that called on universities to start offering American Indian curriculum. It took us to 2017. That's all right. And I think there's multiple purposes. One is, so that Native and non-Native students alike can come and engage in a perspective that they don't normally get. And I think that's important because this campus is housed on Cherokee lands. And so I think it's an important recognition of the space that this university inhabits. Well, 6 years ago now, there was nothing. There was some stuff going on at the administrative level, trying to, this university has for a while tried to engage the Cherokee community. It's been in starts and fits, sometimes successfully, a lot of times not. I think we maybe had one or two Cherokee students and they were graduating. The Native American Student Association was not functioning. And so I'm telling you this because the minor is part of a larger story on campus. There were no cultural events and there were no course offerings. So now we have a minor. We consistently have cultural events on campus. We have these agreements, and most importantly, we have students. And even more important than that is we're graduating these students. And so, it's evolved really just from an idea, a dream, to now a reality. I view teaching as a subversive act. And so, if I can go in and to a classroom and disrupt some of these images, disrupt the Thanksgiving story, which is just completely not true, generally. I think part of awareness starts on those front lines. Part of the reason why we started is, we do have an increased enrollment with Eastern Band Cherokee Indian students coming in, and we just signed an agreement with 27 tribes, the United South and Eastern Tribes Consortium. So for any student coming from those 27 tribes, they get in-state tuition to come to UNC Asheville. And so another purpose of the minor, at least initially, was to offer courses where Native students could see themselves reflected back in the curriculum. I think that's important for retention. And retention rates for Native students are not great, particularly for males. So I think that is definitely part of it. However, we are a primarily white institution, a PWI. And so I think it would be naive to think that only Native students can take those courses. And truthfully, the majority of students in those courses are non-Native. And I think those are important conversations for them too. And I think part of the excitement and support and enthusiasm and enrollment in the courses is partly because I think a lot of non-Native students here are thirsty for other perspectives. I hope the next time they see an image of a Native person, whether it's on television or walking around Asheville or in Cherokee, that they're more critical of that. I think that's an important, what is it, 75% of learners today are visual learners. So if you're questioning those images, I think that's a good place. And my perspective on it is we can't really have authentic conversations about sovereignty or Indian gaming or food sovereignty or the doctrine of discovery until we can move past the notion that Native people don't live in teepees. Like the film class, film is a good class because it's accessible. Like people like to watch movies, but through that you can get at much deeper issues. And so depending on the film, there's lots of discussions about lots of things. In our class, the intro class, I try and hit on topics that I think people would be interested in. I think a goal and a discussion point are just all the images, which is why the new exhibit at the National Museum of American Indian called The Americans is really cool, because it's about that, about representation. Cherokee itself is a complex place because people go downtown and they see all those images and they're like, why are the natives themselves projecting these images? But it's a much more complex story than that. There's a phenomenon over there called chiefing, and it's not just Cherokee people. Go to Navajo, same thing. And they asked this guy, who was out with the tourists in a headdress, totally misrepresenting Cherokees, why do you do this? Why do you project these images that you want? Put 3 kids through college. And tourism is still a significant part of the economic life over there. And what I love to, in a utopian world, see the fact that they're not projecting those images. But I think there is more awareness of that. And I think the assumption is that Native people don't buy into those images as well. And I don't know that that's the case. My think a lot of people, what they know about Native people is from non-natives. And so, all of the readings in that class I try my best to, to have those readings and the videos that we watch all be from Native people. And I think, one, it's to humanize Native people. Mm-hmm. The second is to make sure people understand, it's a really diverse experience. I think also, I think particularly with the intro class, it builds a foundation of knowledge that students can take wherever. If they finish the minor, that's cool, but if they go back into the humanities courses or their majors, at least they have a working knowledge of some of the issues that are pertinent to American Indian people and communities' lives, And I think that's an important connection to make in all of the studies.